7 o'clock. Let's see. Tonight's commission, we have myself, James LaPorte, I'm chairing the meeting. Anna Tamel is not here. Christine Gray is not here. We do have Pete Bodwell, Phil West, and Stephen Sicardi. Also, we'll seat Michelle for Anna and Bruce Bennett for Christine. Okay. So, zoning applications.
There are none listed at the end of the agenda.
Okay. New applications. SP 257, James.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Can you speak up a little more?
Yeah. Actually, do we have...
I am asking that the action on the minutes be deferred because you don't have the final copy.
Yeah, we don't have our June minutes to approve this time, so...
So
I have a motion to move those minutes approvals.
Second.
Any discussion?
I can't see.
Steve.
Okay. And this is
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New applications. SP 257, Jane Gordon Ridgway owners, Ian Ridgway and Jane Ridgway applicants, special permit for a farm cidery and farm store. That's under our regulation 10.5F for detached accessory apartments, also section 10, and farm store section 10 at 142 Town Street. So, do we have any discussion on?
I'm going to encourage the commission to set it for public hearing. There has been some misinformation in the public that this is a public hearing tonight and that there's going to be information made part of the record, and that's not the case. So the application is on my desk, it's complete, and I would encourage you to set it for public hearing at the September meeting.
Right.
And so you'd have to make a motion to that effect.
I make a motion that we set a public hearing for SP 257 for the September meeting.
September 12th.
That's the 12th.
September 12th.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good. SP 258, Town of Cornwall owner, Little Guild applicant, modification to existing special permits for a change of location to town-owned land for temporary siting of facilities at the current location of 285 Sharon Goshen Turnpike during reconstruction and improvements to the current facility.
Again, a motion to set it for public hearing.
We have a motion to set that for public hearing.
I make a motion that we set SP 258 for a public hearing for September. September 12th.
Who's the second?
Steve.
Steve.
Any discussion?
Are we going to do that on the same date?
Yes.
So public meetings on the same date? Sure.
Do you ever, is it amenable to the commission to ever start meetings earlier on the evenings when you have two public hearings?
We never had when we had very long public hearings.
Just thought I'd ask. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm recusing myself from the next one.
Good call.
Yeah, look at, because your name's right in here. Yep. Donald S. Hedden, owner, Keith Bodwell, applicant. One re-subdivision with a shared driveway, 87 Cream Hill Road. So, do we need to do anything else? Is this a,
It should be an amendment to the agenda.
do we have someone from the audience to discuss this?
No, this again is just set it for public hearing.
So it's going to be a public hearing?
Yes,
next month
because
as
it's a
well?
re-subdivision.
These all need public hearings?
Yes.
All
Oh,
right.
no,
Well, it's-
D is not going to be.
Okay.
All right, so moved for September 12th public hearing for
It's going to be busy.
that applicant.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Because D is part of it.
Yeah.
It is 12.
And D is part of B, and I think everybody has copies. And if you go past Danelle's two correspondence for under our workshop meeting, you'll see a memo from the town of Cornwall.
So I want to just read this into the record.
Yeah.
So
As
we've
you,
got-
as you know, an 8-24 referral is required for any change or use of town-owned land, and this referral addresses the use of footfields for the relocation of Little Gill facilities during their reconstruction. It is basically for the siting of a building for dogs, and we have mapping, which has been supplied to the Board of Selectmen. And if you read through the memo from Gordon Ridgway, First Selectman, that Jane Hall sent, you'll see the minutes of the meeting in which the Board of Selectmen have addressed a Little Gill request to site this facility down at Footfields. They address the fact that Little Gill will have to go to a hearing because it's a modification to an existing special permit. It's a site plan change because part of Little Gill, if this goes through, would be located at a different address than Sharon Goshen Turnpike. It will be located at Footfields. And so the 8-24 referral is for you to look at consistency for the referral for the use, and this consideration and suggestion from the Board of Selectmen for the use of the town land. And if you agree with this is consistent with the town plan to work with the Little Gill, which, as you know, is currently serving the town in some faculty as the dog pound. I guess that is what you call, and provide housing for, and clinics, et cetera, for the animals.
So in your recommendation with that 824 referral, is that something the commission should act on prior to the public
Yes.
hearing opening
Yes.
next month?
Yes, and in fact, it would, it's a discussion, an 8-24 referral is a discussion in which you have to find, under your planning hat, you have to find consistency with something in the town plan. And there's a couple sections that you could address in terms of the fact that this is coordination between various organizations of the town, because the Little Gill does serve as a town facility for the dog pound, et cetera, and it's something for you to think about. And it also, with Michelle as the chairman of the Recreation Commission, she could weigh in on it as well. Yeah.
So
Is the site plan available?
Oh dear, I did not print it down, print it off. It is, the site plan shows it within zone compliance. It's cited, it's going to Torrington and Health.
So here again, I think from the commission's perspective, if we want to take a couple minutes in review on your second page here, we have a regular meeting
Do we know
minutes.
how long it's gonna be there for, or is it,
There's the construction timeline has the outside edge at 14 months. So we're saying 18, 2 years max. I mean, we all know construction, whatever they say, let's add some to it. So Park and Rec is planning,
so is it taking out the soccer fields and everything?
no, not at all.
So-
It is going to be where the pickleball court is. From,
On the courts?
no, from that point, there's a grassy area. So between that and Route 4, there's a grass area down there. It will not interfere with anything. It's not going on a field, a baseball field, a soccer field, nothing. So it's going to sit there, and they've got, the layout is designed so that it will not interfere with anything happening at the field.
So are they, So that area is sloped. Is there going to be grading done in order to be able to level areas for this?
No, it's been cited, so, and part of the agreement with the Board of Selectmen is there's going to be insurance, there's going to be other things, and as part of the public hearing for the town of Cornwall, SP 259, the public hearing is going to allow input from the next door neighbors in terms of some of the special permit criteria that they had to meet at Sharon Ocean Turnpike in terms of noise, appearance, etc. And if you read the minutes of the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen has been trying to be very conscientious about making sure that this is consistent with the orderly development of the residential components around Footfield and around the neighbors, but to also work with the Little Goat to continue the services that they offer to the town.
So also, since this is going to be set for, has been set for public hearing for next month, at this point, we're not.
We don't have the details.
Yeah, we don't have those details, but we do want to have the 8-24 referral, just as what we're accepting that referral, so that
That's correct.
that box is checked off. We can have a discussion.
That we accept the referral.
So you're going to make a finding that is consistent with the goals of the plan of conservation.
There's something in there.
Here's a copy of the plan of conservation, if
That's all right.
that's helpful. I will
I just
say,
feel like we ought to have something in here.
I will say, Bruce, that part of it too is where they're looking is there was an area that was overflow parking over there, so I think some of the grading and that part was already done. So where they're looking at was designed to be a little bit of a parking area.
So it's left the pavilion and.
Yeah, well, not exactly, that's literally over towards where Route 4 is. So come off the pickleball court, there's grass over there. And that was, at one time, Footfield got busy with soccer games and things, and that was an overflow.
There's rocks that divide those two parking areas.
Yeah. Yeah. So it had parking put in there, which I think is probably why that location is being looked at.
And I will point out, I asked Michelle to speak because it has been vetted and discussed by various entities. We've looked at it in terms of, there's obviously no well and septic down at Footfields, but in terms of compliance and the public hearing, going back to the public hearing for the special permit, it opens the opportunity to the other abutting property owners to have a say in the decision of the town to, under 8-24 referral, to site that there temporarily.
So the last part of this, the BOS meeting, Karen says they need to have a legally binding agreement drafted along with a liability process prior to going to planning and zoning.
Yes, because prior to going to planning and zoning for the approval of the special permit.
So they'll have that for the public meeting.
Yeah, they're working on it.
I mean, as far as like working with, in conjunction with Park and Rec and other things, our view is it's going to be a positive thing for it to be there. The Conservation Trust has put in a trail. It got rained out, muddy walk didn't happen, but there's a new trail the Conservation Trust has put in that goes from Footfield and connects around. So it'll bring a lot of activity to Footfield, and Park and Rec is excited to partner with Little Guild and have people have Footfield used. So I think that it'll, working with the neighbors and the concerns and all the things that are brought up, I think Little Guild is open to meeting all that, and it's going to be, I think, a positive thing down there.
That's really nice.
What's the reference to that page?
The goal of supporting existing businesses on page 7 of
Page
the
7, which is under the economic development, support development, improve development.
support our existing businesses.
Yeah.
Collaborate with towns.
Major employers.
Major employers.
you want to restate your
Yeah,
motions?
I move that we, let's see, that we refer the use of footfields for the relocation of Little Guild consistent with the town plan for, based on the existing business, supporting the existing businesses out in the economic development section.
Mhm.
So is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, pending applications. Staff report.
I just, I always try to put a positive spin on many things, because I think that there is a lot of activity going on down in West Cornwall. The past couple of weeks have really knocked back a lot of work, because public health, safety, and welfare is coming to the forefront based on the need for people to have easy and quick access to help, to get driveways reestablished, to get help from the town, to make sure that the health and roads rise to the front. So I don't have much to report. That's why I don't have really any zoning applications to point out at this point. But the other piece that I did want to discuss as part of the staff report, I think a lot of you know that I am taking some time off at the end of February, or end of August. I'll get my months right. Maybe am I looking ahead for
That's
something I don't know about. But I wanted to discuss a protocol for the public hearings that are coming up, and I'm going to refer to Janelle at this point in time. We have public hearings in the public forum. The COVID requirements can be followed if the commission wills or wishes that everything for all of these public hearings be up on the website with certain parameters, but I am not going to be here to be able to be as attentive to communications received. I've already received communications prior to the setting of the public hearing, and I would not wish anybody in my position to be having to continually be updating a website as things come in all the way up to the public meeting. I would like it to be deferred to the end. I will put the basic application up for all the special permits, the special permit, the narrative, and the site plan in a PDF, and then the oral and written, or the written communications that come in either electronically or dropped on my desk can be brought to the meeting or put on the website, a day or so prior to the meeting. But in the past, as we saw during the Zoom meetings for the work, for the home-based businesses, there was the expectation that the website was always moving in terms of what was coming in. And that, I would ask that you don't have that expectation of my own.
Yeah, certainly. I think that should also be iterated to the general public, that basically, there are logistical timings involved with some of this stuff. So the earlier we can get any communication, the better we can process it and have it as part of the record. Also, to reiterate to the commission members, if there's any communication, please try to not accept it, or certainly defer it to Karen in the lady's office.
We have had issues recently with communications directly sent to commission members in the case of wetlands, which could have compromised commission members.
So this is always the forum for us to talk about any P&Z stuff. Outside of here, we get to talk about everything else, vacations, the weather, all the good stuff.
So as long as you agree with that, I
So
wanted to put,
when are you gone?
I leave August 29th and I will be back September, Saturday, before the meeting.
Saturday before the meeting.
If I can get out of Germany on time.
So at any point, will we be able to see those?
Yes, I'm going to
communications?
have the applications put up before I leave. They
What
should
about
be
the
put up.
communications, though? Will we be able to see those before?
That's what she was just saying, that would be just before.
Just
Yeah,
before
and
our time.
remember, and there is a lot of people, the public notice, the statutory public notice that goes into the newspaper, and then there's noticing to the abutting neighbors, letter sent out a certain amount of time before to all the abutting neighbors that are listed in their application as the abutting neighbors. So those letters will be going out by the applicants. I do the legal notice, and that will be done before I leave, obviously. And after that, then it's, whatever comes in will be done. A lot of people will and can show up at the public hearing because that's when you're going to see the presentations.
Well, that's the whole point.
Well, and Karen, just to be clear, at the bottom of the agenda, it does say that the Cornwall P&Z welcomes comments and they should be received 24 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Does the same rule apply for the public hearing comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless they're bringing in that night.
Okay.
Well, unless they come and do it, then you can just do that.
Okay, so the cutoff is basically 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Okay.
But 24 hours in advance of the meeting is not a night for change, you're not here as well.
Yeah, that's my
That's
thought.
exactly.
That was
yeah.
my thinking. How that's physically possible for someone to submit something at 7 p.m. on a Monday night.
It's unfair.
Well, shouldn't it just say, shall be received at close of business?
It's
Day
interesting,
before the meeting?
this paragraph was put on our agenda for people to address other comments to the commission in terms of, remember Anna has asked.
I mean, just for legitimacy, that this language might want to be updated, just so it's much more clear. Close of business, the day prior to a meeting is generous. In some towns, we won't receive communication the week of the meeting, and people just have to show up. It's really up to you. But I wouldn't hold yourself to 24 hours in advance of the meeting. If we're
We
not
should discuss
physically
that
here.
at our next
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, it's sort of pertinent
Yeah,
now. Yeah, it's a little-
Well, I meant for the word, if we look, I mean, do we want to change the word? I mean, I kind of think that,
I think we should.
I think that you're in on Saturdays, right? And then you're not in on Mondays, right?
I'm in on Saturdays. They're not my post
It's not her
hours.
scheduled
It's my
time.
work day, yeah.
Tuesday, Thursdays, or
So,
really,
I mean,
probably
it
should be in
really
my
the
Thursday.
before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, then
Yeah.
technically it should be in the Thursday before the meeting because that's your last day of working.
And only till noon, so it really should be by Wednesday night, really, probably.
It should be by the previous office.
Remember
close
the
of
COVID
previous office.
requirements.
But those have been
Yeah.
lifted,
Yeah.
that emergency order has
So
been
it'd be
lifted,
the,
so it's like.
it would be the end of business hours, the
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
previous to the meeting day.
A week before, well, actually,
During her normal business
our
hours.
business hours are Tuesday, Thursday, close of business
Close the business on,
Tuesday, a week before the meeting.
And if there are questions, for instance, if somebody asks for electronic copies or whatever, that's fine.
So will that wording go out in the notice?
The legal notice
Does that
address,
include when comments can be made?
No.
no, because you can bring comments in at the meeting. It may appear and be heard
Right, but,
at the public hearing.
but if you wanted to submit them other than comments in the meeting, you would have to have them in by a certain time.
Especially if the commission wants to be able to have some time to read them before the meeting.
Right.
So can I hear a motion to change that wording to read
Would we want to say Wednesday, close of business on Wednesday, or
on Tuesday, a week
a
before?
week before, 1 week before? I make a motion that we change the wording to close the business on Tuesday, the week before the meeting.
Second. Any discussion?
Just for the record, that's just formal communication that the commission will then read.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the public can't show up at a hearing and be heard.
Exactly, it just gives time that we can, that Karen can get it out to us so that we can read it.
for
before-
written communication.
Communication.
For consideration of
Right.
written communication by the
Exactly.
commission.
Yeah, if they have something after that, they can come to the meeting and
Exactly.
hear that.
So who was the first and who was the second?
Keith and
Keith and then
Steve.
Steve.
Okay.
Dynamic duo. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And under correspondence and communications, I think I might have ordered forwarded the fifth Thursday correspondence, or I might not have, but this is the Thursday correspondence from the call.
Rings out, no, I don't think we,
You
I don't
didn't?
think we got it.
So the Northwest Hills Council of Governments, they did state they're holding their fifth Thursday on August 31st. And they're working with UConn Clear to put together a training on the most pertinent topics. They do want feedback from the commission. It's quite a long laundry list of topics. Do you want me to go through it so you can select what's important? Okay.
How long are we?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 items to choose from, I believe. Legal basis for land use regulation, types of power of land use commissions, public hearings and timeframes, running a meeting, alternates, site walks, responsibilities and fundamental fairness, conflicts of interest, bias and predisposition, representation by commission members, social media, case study, and then plan reading fundamentals.
I like number one, legal.
Legal basis?
Yes.
Anyone else interested
I
in
would say-
anything?
Public hearings and conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Let's get that.
Don't everyone jump at case study.
I'm sure Anna will have.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sure. Yeah, it's quite a broad list that they're
Yeah.
going after. We'll
Running
see.
a meeting.
Meeting, James.
Well,
Crash course.
I will forward that out. It could be there's some connection issues.
Yeah,
this
so
morning
mark your
that might be
calendar,
my-
August 31st,
Might
there'll
be
be
my
this.
What time
What
is
time is that at?
What time are those at?
I don't know, they don't make it very clear.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Just so we
But
can
you
go.
s- what- how about the social media communication one?
I'm sure, I don't think that poses this commission with too much of a problem. Maybe CCN, maybe?
So will we get something in an email, something
Yes.
letting us know what?
I'll forward that.
When they're gonna happen?
Other business? Planning workshop meeting.
Just on other business, were there questions about did anyone see that public hearing memorandum that was circulated? It was circulated to Karen and Anna. It might be helpful in advance of all our public hearings in September. So at the request of the commission, I just pulled together guidelines for public hearings. It might be helpful just to reread it
Yeah.
before the public hearing so that everyone's aware of just what's expected as conduct.
Mhm.
Can you send that out?
And
Email us
I
that
thought
again.
Anna put it in the,
Yeah,
but
you got an email on that.
I don't go into her Google Drive, to be honest, because I output all the information. So if it is available for everyone to read,
Okay.
that'd be great, because it's pretty succinct.
Mhm.
It's just what to expect.
Yep.
Is that the one from back in May?
I'm sure you've read it from me before. I did update it in July.
Right, I was gonna say, I feel like it was in our July packet.
And it might actually be helpful, yeah, it was in the July packet, just to have a few printed copies available for the
Yep.
public hearing. It might be helpful for the public as well.
Can you send that out again to us?
Yeah, I don't ever
I will.
output to
Oh,
the
yeah.
commission, but I'll have
Very
someone
good.
do that on my behalf.
Okay, great.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, no direct communication.
Would I like to talk about the planning workshop?
she's, did you know, I did.
Sure, happy to do so. Do you want to start with accessory dwelling units?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for your write-up.
You're welcome. So everyone, at your request, there was a clean copy that's been circulated. The packet might be confusing. It's actually page 1 and then page 2. I believe the way it was stapled, it gets cut off by another memorandum.
Okay, yep.
So it's just a
Got it.
2-page, yep, it's just a 2-page memo with the suggested
The back
language.
of 2 pages.
Yep. And This is a clean copy. There was a strike-through copy that was circulated for our July meeting. We had a pretty in-depth discussion about the changes that we would be proposing. If there's any details that you want me to touch over, simply, we're keeping accessory dwelling units 10.1 within our section that it is in now, and just renaming the section accessory dwelling units rather than referring to apartment uses, making the intent and purpose a bit more clearly defining what an ADU is. An ADU is the acronym for an accessory dwelling unit, and then incorporating a table for approval process. You'll note the approval process is actually less arduous. We are now proposing that attached accessory apartments are approvable by zoning permit. Detached are also approvable by zoning permit with a site plan if they're located within an accessory structure. And then an additional ADU, that would be your second, would require a special hearing with a public hearing. Your special, that should actually read special permit with a public hearing. So I'll make that edit.
I also had a question about your
Yeah.
language for, under paragraph B.
Perfect.
It says an accessory apartment to be located in an accessory structure detached shall also require zoning permit. I was wondering if we want to combine the first and second sentences, an accessory apartment in a single dwelling unit attached, as well as.
I like that.
Yeah, rather than rewording.
Yeah, I like that.
And then also say the accessory dwelling unit detached will also require a site plan.
In addition, detached will require a site plan.
Yeah.
Perfect,
And-
detached, site plan. And then the table will recapture that. And then, so to make it clear, any additional accessory dwelling unit aside from a first on a single lot shall require a special permit. And then the conversion of a single family dwelling to multifamily will require a special permit. So none of that is changing, and all of what's basically being said in B is then represented in the table. I'll make that adjustment so it reads special permit for the last two.
Let me just ask a question on the last one.
Yeah.
The difference between an EDU and a multifamily?
Multifamily would be 3 or more units. ADU would be an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so accessory dwelling unit, the intention is for a single household.
So multi's 3 plus. Got it.
Duplex is 2.
Okay.
And then our specific provisions, so we've condensed them quite a bit. It's clear all things that comply with zoning will potentially need compliance with other codes and requirements. Most often we see this with building code, our local area health district, and this is key for ADUs because they do require a bit more septic capacity, and then the commission can always require and request additional information if they need to discern compliance. We get into parking, so parking was cleaned up so that it's in line with actually what's required for units. So the minimum parking requirement for an accessory apartment is 2 for the principal dwelling and then just 1 for each accessory dwelling. This aligns with the update to Public Act 2129, which stipulates that zoning regulations should not require more parking for accessory dwelling units. And this is just a reiteration of what's in the table of minimum parking requirements. Then we get to site plan. It's just required to show compliance, and the plan just needs to be adequate so that setbacks, adequate and safe site and unit access, and driveway requirements are shown, as well as just stating that the ZEO and or the Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to ask for additional information such as an A2 quality survey. So in the event that compliance cannot be discerned with a simple site plan or a sketch drawing, that the ZEO does have that authority, just to reiterate that. The zoning permit does get filed on the land records, so this has been common practice. It's just reiterated, and the livable floor area is to be no greater than your 1,200 square feet. And it has to be less than the livable floor area of the primary dwelling unit. That's sort of inherent in the concept accessory dwelling unit. It's your secondary use on your lot. And then again, no more than one attached or detached can be permitted on an individual lot without special permit approval. So Cornwall is expanding the potential for additional accessory dwelling units, as we've discussed at length at previous meetings, but you still need a special permit for it.
So Janelle, the 1,200 square feet that we talked about, I'm trying to get it into a reasonable thing. Can you actually build a house with 2 bedrooms that's 1,200 square feet?
I live in one that's 870 square feet with 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah, that's right.
I never like to quote building code because I'm not a building official, but I think the minimums were decreased, if I'm not mistaken, with the building code updates. So like what's considered safe has actually gone down over time. I think at one point it was 600 for a livable unit.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
I had a question about, on section D, you still have a special permit to require a detached accessory dwelling unit greater than 1,200 square feet.
Yes,
So we're still allowing or considering ADUs greater than 1,200 square feet by a special permit.
yep, yep.
And that's the commission's understanding, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You are most welcome. So D just includes that you can have more than one, and then we get into adaptive reuse. That was just new use of a term, which is essentially our conversion of single family to multifamily. Any application for an existing single family dwelling unit to multifamily is going to need to meet the standards for the special permit requirement and then satisfy general standards. So if you recall, there was once a requirement that the house was of a certain age, and now the requirement is just that it's an existing house and it can be converted to allow for more housing opportunity. So that's relatively straightforward. And that concludes a clean copy of accessory dwelling units.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to the staff recommendation.
So the staff recommendation at this time, if you do feel comfortable, certainly to move to set a public hearing, bear in mind the other public hearings that are scheduled in September. This is a text amendment that's petitioned by the commission. So you do need to follow the requirements of statute, which is, put forth a public ad and have the copy at the clerk's office 10 days in advance of the hearing. Again, because of the other public hearings in September, my foreseen absence in October, you might not want to set the public hearing until a later date. But just putting that on the horizon as we look at our work scope moving forward.
Yeah.
So do we want to discuss setting the date for it at the next meeting?
That's what I was going to suggest.
If we're not too tired.
Put that on the agenda.
Put that on the agenda to discuss a date for
Yep.
the accessory dwelling unit?
Yeah.
For the special permit for that.
Yeah.
Might be a nice Christmas present or something.
Yeah.
I know, for someone that really wants that accessory dwelling
Would you like a
unit.
motion for that, or are you just going to put it on your?
We can
It's a
just-
workshop, so
yeah,
you
it's just
don't
a
have to.
workshop, yeah.
Great.
Great.
Well, that seems to have concluded
I think we
our
have to do
agenda.
cannabis.
Cannabis,
Cannabis? Is that on there too?
yeah, that's part of the planning.
Right.
So, we'll keep rolling. So if you recall last meeting, our chair, Anna Kamel, she did raise the concern around the fact that the moratorium would be expiring, I believe in November. So just for the commission to have that on the radar, there was a lot of discussion around cannabis, especially around the uncertainty of what the state is doing with the legality of it, and also uncertainty of what the community really truly wants in town at this point. So the chair did discussed at our last meeting, just pushing the moratorium for a longer period, especially since the state has currently put a stop on releasing many licenses. So at this point in time, she asked that I just prepare a memorandum with an overview stating all of that, and essentially this memorandum summarizes our survey responses, acknowledging that it was very useful for us to get a read on the fact that indeed the townspeople are relatively torn on the issue. So at this time, the commission just doesn't feel educated enough to move forward or take a strong stance on what would be right for the town, especially because there's a lot that's yet to be figured out at the state level. So at this time, it's been proposed to extend the moratorium on all license types. That's cultivator, microcultivator, producer, product manufacturer, food and beverage manufacturer, product packager, retailer, hybrid retailer, dispensary facility, delivery service, transporter, associated with adult recreational cannabis use, and to extend that through May 31st of 2025. Bear in mind, if you do extend the moratorium and you come up with a master plan of what you want to do, you can uplift that, but this just covers your basis that you don't need to make any real amendments to regulations until that time. It also does not put Cornwall in the vulnerable position that anyone can indeed come in for a license. So if you do nothing and if you don't enact a moratorium, a similar use could come in and just say, I'm a retail use. So at this time, the language is in the memorandum, and that moratorium would be extended, I believe.
So it's 18 months, right, basically?
Yeah.
19 months, end of May, because we expire November 1st.
November.
The end of May the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the process for extending the moratorium is?
And the process for extending the moratorium is indeed a text amendment. So it is quite a formal process. You do need to set a public hearing for a text amendment, because this is actual text within your regulations, to adopt that. So it isn't an easy motion on the table tonight. It's actually
So I move we set a public hearing.
setting a
for-
public hearing and then publicly noticing
Well, we
it.
have to, it expires November 1st.
Yeah, I think
It
We have to do
does.
it for, we have to do it for,
let's do it for next month.
That'd be-
not,
that'd be-
it'll be a quick one, yeah.
Maybe move it to the
I'm-
top of the agenda.
I move that we set a public hearing for September 12th.
Yep.
Or,
Why don't we do it for the next week?
No.
I'm not coming back.
I got things to do.
For, for the moratorium, with the language that Janelle just gave us on what the.
You'll help me with
It's in the memorandum.
Yes, in the
It's
memorandum.
verbatim in the memorandum.
So-
Yeah,
that. All right.
it's all.
Okay.
I believe it's 12 months.
I thought it was 12.
Am I
I thought
wrong?
it was 12
Yeah,
months.
it's gotta be 12.
But,
No, we talked about
It's
18
not.
last
It's
meeting. We talked about 18.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I think I read 12 somewhere.
I wrote 12.
Okay.
Thank you for reading.
But May is 18, because we
Yeah,
expire
so-
in November, so.
So actually, the one amendment that I'd like to make to my memorandum is that it should read 18 months in the final paragraph. Thank you, Steve, for getting to the final paragraph. It'll be another 18-month
You didn't believe
moratorium.
me when I
Yeah.
told you I read it.
But
You did a comprehensive
there's
Yeah.
no proof.
And thank you for this, because I have a phone call to return to someone regarding this. Yes.
Perfect,
So-
yeah. So it'd be through May 31st of 2025.
So we have a motion on the table to set that public hearing for next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
12.
Second.
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 Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Yeah, everybody's got to show up,
Everybody, show up September 12th.
including Anna.
Yeah. Wait till she finds out her homework when she gets home. Hope you're having fun.
Okay, is that conclusive?
That concludes my spiel.
That concludes the workshop.
And we better make sure there's no workshop next meeting.
Yeah, nothing. No memorandums for anything, nothing. Mm-mm.
Is it your suggestion that we push it to the top, because it really is? a
I
simple
would,
text amendment?
yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely put the text amendment up top. We won't get into discussion about the merits of cannabis It's literally just a moratorium.
So we
Yeah.
can learn more.
Yeah, so the commission can learn more and take time to see what's coming forth with the state. They've amended their laws twice, maybe 3 times now.
So that's very clear that it's a little bit different than our other public hearings. It's,
It better be.
Yeah, I mean, the public always has a right to speak, but it will very much need to be pertinent to the text amendment on the floor. So we can, yeah, make that clear.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
make a motion?
Any discussion? The usual.
Steve.
I know.
That's it,
All
right?